traveling the world looking for a higher purpose to life. I gave up my professional career. I had a good career with lots of money, medical profession, but somehow deep in my heart I could feel people need something else to be happy. So, and then I gave up everything, sold everything, all my medical books, I got rid of them. I somehow knew I would never get back to this life. And I traveled all around the world, around Europe, around Africa, around Australia. And then finally in Australia, that's where I met ISKCON. That was in the beginning of '85. And I immediately, after 1 week of meeting the devotees, I immediately joined the temple. In the Western world, we have ladies' ashrams, where the ladies also get some opportunity for training. So I was 4 years in the ladies' ashram getting the basic training in devotional life. And then I was married for 10 years. So in that time, we pioneered the first more organized temple in the former Soviet Union in Latvia. That was a very great adventure and pioneer work. We started from nothing. We had no building, no saris, no spices, no deities, absolutely nothing. And within 2 years or something, we had 65 brahmacharis in the temple. I mean, not that we brought them all to Krishna consciousness, but the word got around and people came from all over former Soviet Union to join our temple. And we had also 30 ladies in the ashram too. So this was my family that kept me pretty busy. So, and in this 10 years of establishing this temple, I learned so many things which are now very helpful for my humble preaching. So then in 1999, my husband left me, left Krishna consciousness. He needed a break from me and from Krishna consciousness. And I'm not quite sure what he's doing now. He's not really practicing much anymore. So, and then I moved on to the next phase in life. So since then, since 1999, I'm basically living as a renounced traveling preacher, living out of a suitcase. So I spend 5 months per year preaching in India and Bangladesh, and 7 months all around the world. Sometimes I go to US, sometimes South Africa, Mauritius, Kenya, Australia, New Zealand, all around Europe. There's so many little countries. So every week I'm basically somewhere else. And let me share, in these last 25 years, I have been very involved in preaching in Bangladesh. And for those who don't know, Bangladesh, very special place, East Bengal. Most of Mahaprabhu's associates come from there. And somehow, our Vaishnava culture has really been preserved there, much more than in India. Yeah. So when I travel there, I feel like I'm entering Chaitanya Charitamrita, actually. The whole bhajan, kirtan, prasadam culture, Vaishnava hospitality culture, it's all going full swing. I mean, it's really like a different planet, really, yeah. And there's no Western devotees living, no Indian devotees. So when I'm there, I'm only with the locals. I travel with them, I live with them, I preach with them, eat with them. I do everything with them. So, and over the last 25 years, I received a whole transformation there. And that's actually what bhakti is meant to bring about. We are meant to transform. So my whole worldview got put upside down. And that made me understand that actually we need some training how to live what Prabhupada has given us. So Prabhupada's books is the step number 1 in our spiritual education. But then step number 2 comes, how do we live it? That's the real challenge. And we are not quite there yet in ISKCON. You know, we are not quite living what Prabhupada has given us. So, and that inspired me to establish an Institute for Spiritual Culture. I brought a little brochure here. So I'm based in Mayapur actually. I spend every year 3 months in Mayapur and I give courses there. So I put all different courses together, trying to help devotees to understand how we are meant to live that valuable knowledge that Prabhupada has given us. How do we apply it? So, and because not everybody can come to Mayapur and take all these courses, that's why I'm now putting the courses in book form, so they can reach more people. So each and every book here you see is actually a 15-hour course, which I'm giving in Mayapur. Actually, just for your interest, I brought the course schedule along. If you're interested, after the class, you can come up and take a photo of the course schedule. If you like, if you have time and opportunity, spend some time in Mayapur, take some courses, some systematic education. Because, see, Prabhupada's books are the law books for civilized humanity. But sometimes the law books are pretty complex, and it's not so easy to understand how to live according to the law books. And that's exactly what I'm trying to give. I'm trying to make Prabhupada's books practically accessible to people. It's like a complementary literature to the law books. So it's completely based on Prabhupada. Every second page you find a quote from the Bhagavatam mainly, because Bhagavatam, it's really the law books for civilized humanity. Everything is in there, but yet we often just overread things and we don't realize, hey, this is meant for me. I'm meant to apply this in my life, right? Yeah, so if anybody has time to attend the courses, you're welcome to take a picture of it. And then before I forget, I'm also conducting a holy name retreat in ISKCON over Christmas, 24th to 28th of December. Who of you has been to ISKCON? Yeah, a few, but not everybody, you know. So ISKCON is Nityananda's birthplace. So we spent 4 nights there. And I arrange everything. All you have to do is be in time in Mayapur and register on my website. I arrange the bus going from Mayapur to ISKCON, accommodation, prasadam, everything. Or sometimes people take the train to Rampur Hat. That's the nearest train station to ISKCON. And then from there you can take a Toto or CNG or whatever. Very nice experience, especially if you switch off your phone for 3 days. You actually enter a different reality. Very powerful, yeah. And you get a whole folder with printed materials, and we do exercises in japa, in kirtan. We apply in evening kirtans what we discuss during the day. So it's quite transformational. This time also His Holiness Chandramurti Swami is joining us again. He was once there before and he really liked it, so he wants to come again. So it will be a nice experience, guaranteed. So if you're interested in that, again, after the class, you can take a photo. Okay, so now let us begin with our topic-related class, not the usual Bhagavatam class, but topic-related. So we want to talk about the power of consciousness. My voice is a little damaged from 40 years of intense use. And I also just had a cold and a cough, so yeah. So, consciousness. Let us understand what is consciousness. Where does it come from? How our consciousness affects others, how our consciousness is affected by our surroundings. So Prabhupada used to say, before becoming Krishna conscious, we first have to become conscious, right? So now today, let us try and become conscious of consciousness. What consciousness is. Because we use this term so much, and yet we may not even, we may not even understand what is consciousness actually, right? And after all, we are the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, let's become more clear what consciousness actually is. Yes. 2 minutes to get organized. Okay. All right. Yes. So consciousness is actually a very powerful energy emanating from the soul. It's the life force. And there is a nice verse in Bhagavad Gita, which I would like to read with you briefly, because Krishna gives this nice analogy with the sun and the sunshine. So just like the sun illuminates the whole universe through sunshine, in the same way, the soul illuminates the body through consciousness. So let us read this. This is verse 1334. We will skip the Sanskrit just to save some time. So the translation is, O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So it's a very nice analogy which is easy to relate to and to understand. So the purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are various theories regarding consciousness. Here in the Bhagavad Gita, the example of the sun and the sunshine is given. As the sun is situated in one place, but is illuminating the whole universe, so a small particle of spiritual soul, although situated in the heart of this body, is illuminating the whole body by consciousness. Thus, consciousness is the proof of the presence of the soul, as sunshine or light is the proof of the presence of the sun. When the soul is present in the body, there is consciousness all over the body. And as soon as the soul has passed from this body, there is no more consciousness, right? So of course, this is not only relating to human bodies, but as soon as there is life, as soon as there is growth and byproducts, whether this is animal species, plant species, there is soul present. And as soon as the soul is present, there is consciousness, right? And sometimes the consciousness is more covered in dull, but then sometimes it is more awake and alert and elevated, depending, in which species of life the soul takes birth, and depending on how the soul has developed their consciousness, right? Yes. Yeah, so when the soul is present in the body, there's consciousness all over the body, and as soon as the soul has passed from the body, there is no more consciousness. So that's the difference between a dead body and a live body. As soon as the soul has left the body, then there is no more consciousness. This can be easily understood by any intelligent man. So let's try to be intelligent here. Therefore, consciousness is not a product of the combinations of matters. It is the symptom of the living entity. The consciousness of the living entity, although qualitatively one with the supreme consciousness, is not supreme, because the consciousness of one particular body does not share that of another body. But the supersoul, which is situated in all bodies as the friend of the individual soul, is conscious of all bodies. That is the difference between supreme consciousness and individual consciousness. Yes. So, because the soul is a part and parcel of the supreme soul, that's why the soul by nature has the same qualities in minute quantity, right? And therefore also, originally, the consciousness of the soul is actually pure. Yeah. But then, due to being in this material world, affected by the three modes of material natures, we become covered over, and then the consciousness is not so pure anymore. And Prabhupada makes this nice point that, the Supreme Soul is conscious of every body. But we are only conscious of one body. Thank God, we can say. Right? Just imagine we would be conscious of each and every body. Oh my God, we would go crazy probably. So it's enough to handle to be conscious of this one person. But we can also say, as we become purified, like Srila Prabhupada, he was conscious of so many bodies, Yes, he could see what's going on in people's hearts and minds, and so we can also, as we become purified, we can expand our consciousness, that we are not only thinking of me and myself, but that we are conscious of other people around us. And we can pick up, we are perceptive, we can see, this person is unhappy, this person is suffering, this person has some doubt, and depending on how we develop and purify our consciousness. Yes, so this is what it is. Consciousness is that powerful energy which emanates from the soul and floods the whole body and keeps every cell in the body alive. Yeah. As I mentioned, I'm coming from medical background, so I remember, anybody who has medical education knows, let's say you cut off your fingertip in the kitchen there, cutting up the vegetables, so you have only a very short time span where you can stitch this finger back on. But if that fingertip is separated from the powerhouse of consciousness, the soul, if it is separated for too long, cells are dead. You can't stitch it back on. Yeah, so that's how it works, And it is not only flooding the whole body, keeping every cell alive, but it is also emanating from every pore of the skin as a powerful energy. That's what we call the aura, right? Yes. And we see, let me see, do we have any paintings here? Not so much. Usually, Krishna, Mahaprabhu, we always paint with a halo, right? Huh? Yes, there we see. Yeah. So this is actually factual. If a person has a very divine, godly consciousness, that comes out as effulgence mainly through the head, actually. And it can be perceived factually. It's not just some artistic tool there or something. Yeah, even in Christianity, people also do that in the churches. The saintly personalities all have this shiny circle there around their head, Yes. Yes. So, and we have nice stories with Prabhupada, where Prabhupada was walking through one of the cities in America on the way to Rath Yatra, and he was surrounded by a group of disciples, and the disciples overheard a conversation between two policemen. And one was saying to the other, "Look at this man, he is glowing." That's what he said. "Look at this man, he is glowing, he is shining." He had no clue who Prabhupada was, no clue. But he could see that Prabhupada was very effulgent. He could see that. Yes. Yes. So, but not only the divine, godly consciousness emanates from the body, from every pore of the skin, but also the lower contaminated consciousness, let's call it the false ego consciousness, full of lust and envy and greed and. So that kind of consciousness also emanates from a person. And when we are a little perceptive, we can feel that. We can feel some negative energy coming there. Yes. Yes. So, and we can basically imagine it's a broad spectrum there. On one end, we have this pure, godly, divine consciousness, the original pure energy of the soul. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the lusty, greedy, envious, false ego consciousness, right? And the whole process of Krishna consciousness is meant to transform, and basically get back to the healthy original state of consciousness. That's what we are trying to do here, right? Yes. Let me share one little interesting story which really makes this point, how consciousness floods the whole body. I know one family in Australia, devotee family, and the husband, he had a kidney failure. So his wife was donating one of her kidneys. So this is possible, you can live with one kidney if it's a good one. So she gave one of her kidneys to him. And she was the only one in the family who was attached to eating chocolate. Nobody else in the family, they have 3 boys, nobody else in the family is keen on chocolate, but she was keen on chocolate. So she had, in her cupboard, she had a little stash there of chocolate. And when they both came back from the hospital after that kidney transplantation, she felt like having some chocolate. So she went to her cupboard, but all the chocolate was gone. And she was, perplexed. Where did the chocolate go? So she asked her husband, do you have any idea where the chocolate went? And he was a little embarrassed and smiling and saying, well, something overcame me and I had this urge, this craving to eat some chocolate. So I pinched it and ate it all. So then they were thinking, well, maybe this is connected with this kidney transplantation. So next time they went to the checkup, they were telling the story to their doctor. And the doctor was smiling and saying, oh, yes, yes, we know this. Whenever we transplant an organ, the person receiving the organ for some time has the same taste and cravings as the person giving it. And then he said, it looks like organs can remember things, which is of course nonsense. Organs cannot remember anything. But this doctor did not know the power of consciousness. Yes, that he did not know. Any doctor should actually know this. But yeah, so her kidney was flooded with chocolate consciousness. And when her husband received that kidney, that chocolate consciousness emanated from his new kidney. Yes. And that's why he had this craving, this urge for eating some chocolate. Quite amazing. So that's a medical proof how consciousness works. Right? Yes, yes. But it only lasted for about a week or 10 days. And so after a week or 10 days, his new kidney was flooded with his consciousness, which was devoid of chocolate consciousness. So then that urge and taste for chocolate went away, Yes. And once, and when I was discussing this topic also somewhere else, one devotee was sharing how his son, when he was very small, he had some bone marrow transplantation when he was 2 or something. And he was sharing that this affected him for a whole year, because who knows what kind of consciousness that person had who donated it, right? I mean, in our case with the kidney, it was only chocolate consciousness. But, if a person donates some organ or something, we don't know what kind of activities they were performing. Maybe all 4 sinful activities, every day. So naturally, that consciousness is in that bone marrow or whatever, And of course, I mean, if it is a life-death situation, it's not that we are rejecting, organ transplantations, but it's good to be mindful of this, yes. How really consciousness is in every cell of the body. And of course, understanding that, it becomes very clear that, for example, a pregnant mother, the child in the womb is flooded by her consciousness. Of course, yes, you know, yes, these things, this is what our ladies should study, you know, yes, instead of, you know, engineering and whatnot. You know, there's so many important things to learn, my God. See, in Krishna's culture, mothers are the topmost personalities. Yeah, topmost personalities. Whereas in materialistic culture, oh, mother, only being mother and housewife, oh, you're a loser, you know? Yes. So this is the day-night principle. You know, Krishna says in 269, what is day to the common person is night to the introspective sage. And what is day to the spiritualist is night to the materialist. So that means, you know, what is success in material life is most likely an obstacle for spiritual development. Yes. And what is success in bhakti will be seen as what? Failure, being a loser. Yes, as weakness. You know, good example in that regard is the quality of tolerance, right? In spiritual life, tolerance is the topmost thing to develop, to really cultivate bhakti. Tolerance means for its ego is subdued and dissolved. But from a material point of view, who am I to tolerate that nonsense? Forget it. I'm not going to tolerate that. You know, their success is not to tolerate. You know, yes. Very important that we keep this in the back of our minds, because this day-night principle is accompanying us throughout our whole life. Yeah. So we have to be very careful. You know, whatever is modern and progressive out there most likely creates an impediment on our path of bhakti. We have to be clear in this. Can we somehow switch off the phones? What's all this ringing going on here? See, I live without a mobile phone. I don't have one. I travel the whole world without a phone. Yes, it's possible. It's such a distraction, these phones. Ugh. People always ask me, how can you get anything done without a phone? And you know what I ask them? How do you get anything done with a phone? You know? I wouldn't get anything done if I had a phone. Constantly being interrupted, oh my God, you know, terrible. If people want to talk to me, they have to send me an email, make an appointment over Zoom or Teams. That's how I talk with people. Only by appointment. I don't like to be interrupted all the time. You know? Anyway, back to consciousness. Yes. So, you know, being a mother is the most amazing service. Yes. She is the first guru to the conditioned soul. She plants the seed of bhakti in the heart. She creates this whole spiritual energy in the home where the husband is meant to recharge when he's coming back home all tired and frustrated from battling and out there. He is meant to recharge in that spiritual atmosphere, you know? Yes. She's the backbone of human society, is the mother. Yes, yes, yes. This knowledge is getting all lost here, even here in India. You know, we had yesterday a bit of a discussion here. Oh my God, I can see how we are all so programmed by this materialistic propaganda. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. So yeah, good to understand. Child raising is not starting after giving birth. Now, during pregnancy, the child hears everything. The child gets the consciousness of the mother. Yes, yes, very important to know. So pregnant women should not work and be in anxiety and surrounded by all kinds of mundane talks there in some office. Child hears everything, oh my God, So pregnant women should just read the Bhagavatam loud and chant and be relaxed and in harmony with herself and the world, and really already communicating with the child there. Yes. Actually, let me share this, even though it is a little off the topic. I once met one family, and she shared with me that during her 9 months of pregnancy, she chanted every day the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita loud, every day for 9 months. And when I met them, the child was maybe 4 or 5, something like that. And they told me, without any further training, when the parents were chanting this 5th chapter, stopping anywhere, he knew the next verse. From hearing in the room. That's what we have to teach our ladies. Yes, yes. My God, I was blown away when I heard this. Of course, we all know Prahlad Maharaj is in the room, and yes, of course, Prahlad Maharaj would. Why not? But until I met this family, I did not realize that this is still going on today in every family. Child hears everything. Yes, yes. My goodness. And I mean, even the modern scientists have meanwhile done some research. They have found that the child, the newborn child, reacts differently to that music which he or she was hearing a lot during pregnancy. They made some experiments playing certain kinds of music to pregnant mothers, and then when the child is born, playing all different kinds of music, and the child reacts differently to the music he or she heard during pregnancy. So even the non-devotee scientists, they came to this conclusion, yes, the child hears in the womb, But this we should take seriously, not just, child hears in the womb, but then when we are pregnant, we do all kinds of nonsense. We argue with our husband, and all these kind of things, and the child hears it all. Yes, yes. And not only that, actually child raising starts before conception even, because it is said, according to the consciousness of the parents at the time of conception, that determines what kind of soul takes birth in your family. Garbhadat samskara. Again, this is what we should teach to our devotees, especially the ladies. It's a whole big science, how to attract an empowered soul to take birth in our family, So then being a mother, if we follow all these things nicely, wow, being a mother is a whole transcendental adventure. Yes, you can invite another Prabhupada to take birth in your family, who really makes an empowering contribution to Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement. Yes, the demigods are queuing up to take birth in Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, but they want to take birth in a Paka family. So, but we are not inviting them. Yes. So they don't want to just take birth in any family in ISKCON, but they want to take birth in a family where the family life is an ashram, a suitable place for cultivating pure bhakti and nothing else. That's where they want to take birth, you know? Yes. So there's so many interesting things to learn, to discover, to study, which no university is teaching, you know? Yes, yes. Anyway, so let's get back to the topic of consciousness. Was a little detour. Also, of course, every activity we perform is executed through consciousness, right? Yes. So that's why, for example, Prabhupada, everything Prabhupada did was just so amazingly attractive and beautiful. The way he walked, the way he smiled, the way he laughed, the way he danced, the way he flicked a piece of prasadam into his mouth. Everything was so fascinatingly beautiful. Why? Because it was executed by this sublime, divine, godly consciousness. Yeah. So, and then let's go to the other end of the spectrum, you know, when a person's consciousness is not so sublime and godly and pure, but it is full of lust and greed and false ego and envy. So then every movement that person is doing, not so attractive. You know, especially false ego always wants us to be the center of attention. We want to bring attention to ourselves and show off how great we are. So that kind of consciousness, when that person laughs and dances and walks, you know, we can feel some negativity coming there, some negative energy, you know, yeah. And I mean, I'm sure we have had that experience. Let's say we had some argument with somebody and we are with that person in a relatively small room, even without saying anything. Nobody says anything, but we can feel there is some tension in the air, right? And we can feel, oh, this person is upset with me. And you know, so that's the power of consciousness. Yes. Well, I'm sure we have all heard that whatever we create, consciousness enters that thing we create. Like the easiest example is cooking, right? We all know the consciousness of the cook enters the food he cooks, right? Yes. So that's why we are a little careful. The main question is not, or is this vegetarian? But the question is, who cooked it? Right? Yes. And that's why in the temples, usually we try our very best to have, you know, devotees in the kitchen whose consciousness we hope is as best as we can have in our community. You know? Yes. Yeah. Yes, because I mean, even non-devotees know this, that mother's cooking is the best, right? Because mothers put all their love and devotion and affection there into the cooking, you know, for the children, for the husband. Best would be if it's also for Krishna and Prabhupada. But even if it is not for Krishna and Prabhupada, still her affection enters the food. And therefore, mother's cooking is always the best. And even more best when it is cooked in love and devotion to the Lord and offered on the altar. Yes. Yeah, so that's why, you know, those of us who are, you know, serious in really cultivating bhakti, we are a little careful what we eat. You know, we don't want to eat anything cooked by non-devotees. You know, yes, yes. Even packaged food, you know, biscuits and chips or whatever people buy, you know, already packaged food. Well, if you just do it once because you're traveling somewhere, it may not immediately affect you so much. But if we make this a regular thing, you know, then it does have some effects. Definitely. It may be very subtle, we may not even realize, but it does increase our material desires. Definitely. You know, yeah. So good to know these things, you know, yes, that we are not so keen to eat things which are not cooked by devotees, you know, yes. But also consciousness is not only entering the food we cook, anything we create with our hands, consciousness enters because it's executed through consciousness, right? Yes. So that's why handcrafted things, for example, always have some special energy. Like when our mother is knitting some scarf for the cold season, I guess here in Nagpur, maybe your cold season is not even that cold that you need a scarf. But if you go to Vrindavan or something, you need a scarf in winter, even in Mayapur, you know. So if she knits that with love and devotion, oh, that has a very different energy than something from the factory, right? Yes, yes. It's factual, yes. I know one devotee in Germany, he lives on a farm community there. He built his house himself with his own hands. Of course, he had a few tools, but the house is mainly from wood. Over quite a few years, he built it with so much effort and energy. And when you walk into this house, wow, different energy there. You know, yes, you can feel it. It's a difference than living in some concrete block there. You know, yes. Yeah, so these things are subtle, but they are factual. You know, yes. So whatever we create, consciousness enters. You know, yes. Then also, of course, as we mentioned, consciousness is not there only in the human form of life, but also in plants, in trees. Trees are actually quite amazing creatures. Yes, they give so much benefit to our planet. You know, not only do they transform carbon dioxide into oxygen, which is also pretty remarkable and really needed, but also they take up negative energy and they give off healing and positive energy. Yes, yes. So I remember, and of course they give so many byproducts, shade, flowers, fruits, so many things, you know. And I remember many years ago when I was a teenager, which is quite a few years ago, 50 plus years ago, I remember on the radio, in those days we were listening to the radio, you know, there was no internet and social media and all that. And they were good times actually, believe it or not. So I remember hearing some report on the radio, and it impressed me so much that I still remember it after more than 50 years. They were demonstrating how trees have consciousness. And you can transform the vibrations of consciousness into sound vibration. Don't ask me how, but it is possible. So, and they were demonstrating This is what a tree sounds like, which is in peace and relaxed. And then there was a buzzing noise. So that's what the tree sounds like, who is in a relaxed mood. And then they demonstrated what a tree sounds like, which is in anxiety. Ooh, and that sounded very differently, all going up and down, ooh, like that. And then they explained why this tree is in anxiety. And they were telling that a man approached that tree who 3 years before cut some branches of that tree. And that tree recognized that person and was in anxiety. Oh my God, not this guy is coming again. Last time he cut some branches off me. What's he gonna do this time? Yes, yes. I mean, this is quite amazing, isn't it? Yes, yes. So now we may wonder, how can the tree recognize that person? The tree doesn't have any eyes to see, but now he can feel that person's energy, and that's how he recognizes. Yes, I mean, this is quite miraculous, isn't it? Yes. So yes, plants, trees, they have consciousness, and they can feel other people's consciousness, and they can react to that. Actually, I have heard other interesting things, how trees are communicating. Yes, and that the stronger trees, they help the weaker trees and support them and the roots and you know, so I mean, there is a spirit soul there. There's a personality in this tree, you know, and they're communicating. See, in this age of modern technology, we become so dull towards these subtleties, you know, yes. I remember I once talked to one of our devotees in Scandinavia and Sweden. He lives on the farm there and he grows organic vegetables. So I was talking to him about it, about this topic of plants having consciousness. And he said, yes, I am convinced of this. And he was saying, my neighbor, he also grows carrots and his soil is better than my soil. But my carrots taste better. And why? Because he said, because I talk to my carrots. I chant Hare Krishna to them. I take care of them with devotion. I want them to be offered to Panchatattva deities in the temple. So I give all my affection and care to them. And therefore they are happy. And they're more tasty and juicy. Yes, yes. There was also in England some Christian community, and they were also growing vegetables. And yeah, because they had some level of God consciousness, and they were really, you know, growing their vegetables with devotion and care and affection. They had these huge, gigantic vegetables, these huge pumpkins, you know, yes, which nobody ever had seen in the world. You know, how can a pumpkin become so big? It was a whole big miracle there, you know, in their community, you know, yes. Yeah, so, and I know another devotee, he is actually a gardener. He studied gardening. And he was also telling me, he was sharing one story with me when he did his training in some big, you know, plant gardening place there. His boss told him to water all the little pots there on the shelf, you know. And okay, he watered them, but he forgot some at the end. And then his boss came up to him and said, "Did you water this one?" And he was all shocked. And he realized, "No, I didn't." And then he asked him, "How did you know?" And then his boss simply smiled and said, "Well, they communicate with me." So if we are in tune, if we are connecting with the plants and we are in tune with them, then they can let us know, I'm thirsty. He forgot to water me. Yes. So yeah, that's what he told me, So yeah, quite interesting, this topic of consciousness. So now one maybe last amazing point is that actually consciousness travels on sound vibration. That is a very special arrangement by the Lord, because the voice is very closely connected to our emotions. Whatever emotion we have, whatever we have in the heart, comes out through our voice. We can't hide it. If we are angry, upset, whatever, it comes out as soon as we open our mouth, no matter how much we try and hide it. So, but that means, that consciousness traveling on sound vibration. So if a speaker or a kirtaniya is in very, is in godly consciousness, is in pure consciousness, so then his consciousness travels on the sound vibration coming out of his mouth and affects every person there in the audience. That's what kirtan is. It's a whole transcendental affair. It is not just some music. No, it is a transcendental exchange, a heart-to-heart exchange of consciousness. Yeah, that's what Sadhu Sangha is all about. We are actually dipping our heart into we can say a sadhu's heart is colored by his consciousness. So we are dipping our heart in the same pot of color, which sadhu's heart is colored, by hearing or joining his kirtans. Yeah, because his consciousness, his devotion, his commitment, his dedication, his mood of sacrificing himself for Krishna, all that builds consciousness. And that travels on the sound vibration. And especially if we are eager, if our heart is open, if we feel some little attraction for that person, then the heart will, accept what travels there on the sound vibration. Yes. Yeah, so that means when we enter kirtan, especially when we lead kirtan, kirtan is all about connecting, calling out in helplessness to the Lord, longing for the relationship with the Lord. That's what kirtan is all about. If you want to know more, come to the Holy Name Retreat in Nagpur. We have a whole session there on kirtan and yes. Yeah, so that's how kirtan should be sung, And not only the person leading the kirtan, even the instrument players. It's very subtle, but again, you know, the consciousness of the Mridanga player comes out through his fingertips, and that's what makes his fingers move, and then the Mridanga magnifies that consciousness, you know. So his consciousness travels on the Mridanga beat. Yeah. So, and if you're a little perceptive, you can feel this. If a Mridanga player wants to show off how great he is and how expert he is, he wants to be noticed, you know, then his Mridanga playing is always this touch too loud, you know, because that's what he wants to be. He wants to be noticed. And it actually contaminates the kirtan. Yes, it contaminates. Because any kind of showing off means that we want to glorify ourselves, not Krishna, right? That's what it means to show off. We want to bring attention to ourselves and want to bring glory to ourselves. So that contaminates the whole kirtan experience. Yeah, it's a serious matter. You know. Yeah, same with the cartels, you know. If a person wants to be noticed and show off what he can all do there, you know, contaminates the kirtan. You know. Even clapping is counted as an instrument in kirtan. And I'm sure we all have that experience many times. There's somebody there in the kirtan who claps so loud and he wants to be heard. How loud I can clap, right? You have that experience? It's annoying, it's irritating, isn't it? Yes, it really is, you know? Yes. And one Bhagavatam purport, Prabhupada makes this humorous statement. He says, in this material world, even an ass enjoys his own sound vibration. My sound is so beautiful that everybody hear my sound. And kirtan can be the opportunity for the ass, you know, to be noticed, to make this big ugly noise there. Oh my God. So in the name of Krishna consciousness, we can really feed and boost our false egos very nicely, you know, all in the name of Krishna consciousness, instead of subduing and dissolving it. And in that purport, Prabhupada continues, he says, even in the material world, even an ass enjoys his own sound vibration, but in the Vaikuntha planets, even the beautifully chirping birds, like the chakravaka, the cuckoo, the peacocks, they rather want to hear the glories of the Lord chanted by the bees. That's the mood in the spiritual world, you know? That there, even the most beautifully chirping birds, they don't think my sound is so beautiful. I rather want to hear the humming of the bees, how they glorify the Lord. You know? Yes, even from a material point of view, the bees, well, it's not such an overwhelming sound, you know, it's just some humming. But no, that's the mood in the spiritual world, that no, the other, you know, entities, they glorify the Lord so much more beautifully than what I can do, you know. So, but in the material world, even the ass thinks his sound is so beautiful, you know. Yeah, so we all have a little bit of this ass-like this little donkey there living in our hearts, you know, and at any opportunity we try and be noticed and recognized. Even with the Premadvani prayers, you know, Jai Vishnu Padma, you always have somebody who's die, die, die. You know, oh, here's my chance. My ass can be noticed. Die. Oh, yeah, so, and that's why we need Vaishnava etiquette, just not to give the ass a chance, to keep him quiet. Yes. But in any case, going back to consciousness traveling on sound vibration, so that also means those of us who are serious in cultivating bhakti, we are a little careful what kind of sound vibration we invite in our life, right? So Bollywood, cinema, music here, well, you know, what consciousness are these personalities in, you know, who sing there, you know, not so uplifting. That's why we shouldn't even hear from professional kirtaniers. You know, Bengal, Bangladesh, oh, full of professional kirtaniers who don't follow anything. They smoke biddies but oh, their kirtan is fast, sounds really cool and great, you know. But what are we catching there? You know, yes. Actually, in the beginning of ISKCON, when the Gopanim festival began, the devotees were suggesting to Prabhupada to hire some professional kirtaniers because, you know, the first Prabhupada disciples, they were not so expert in kirtan. And they thought, well, let's get some Bengali kirtaniers and this will be good for our preaching. But Prabhupada said, no, let our own man chant Hare Krishna, never mind if they're not so expert. And then he was saying, these professional kirtaniers, they're not chanting the holy name. They're chanting money, money, money. Taka, taka, taka. Yes. So that's, yeah, we have to discriminate, you know, because even on the internet, you find so many kirtaniers who are not really practicing devotional service, you know? Yes. And we may get fooled, thinking, oh, that their kirtan is so good. But hey, what are you catching here? Money, 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 followers, 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 you know, contaminating. All right, well, maybe I'll leave it at that. Do we have any questions? Any points for further discussions? Since it is very practical, as always. Yeah.
So my question is, how can we keep our consciousness protected from the external influences?
Good. That's always a good question. Well, Prabhupada was saying, inject the blood with KC drug. KC, Krishna consciousness. So that's why we need good sadhana, right? Yes, our day should start with good sadhana. That's the KC drug. So, and of course, it doesn't mean that we are immune. Maybe some little immunity is there, some little vaccination, but still we have to be careful, you know. And well, during pandemic, we were learning social distancing. So we may have to somehow, sometimes, keep a little distance, you know. I'm actually describing this also in the Family Life as an Ashram Secrets of Success book, you know. That, yeah, in our dealings, let's say we are working in the office surrounded by non-devotees, so we should be socially pleasant, and the only goal for our interactions is to make people more favorable of Krishna consciousness. But otherwise, we should protect our heart a little. We should not find pleasure in what they do and talk about and join in. And also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes an interesting point. He says that actually mundane association mainly takes place when the emotions are involved. Like when you go to the bank or the post office and you do your dealings there and you walk out. So there's no emotions involved. You don't like that person and all that, you know. So you just go do your business and your heart is protected. But as soon as our emotions are involved, so that means then the heart is open to catch what they have in their hearts, you know. So we have to keep this a little in mind, you know. Even with non-devotee relatives, we have to be a little careful because there's so much emotion there, you know. And I mean, it definitely doesn't mean that we shouldn't associate with our non-devotee relatives, but the goal should always be that we give our association, like on book distribution, you know, same principle. On book distribution, we have to be strong enough to give our association to them. Otherwise, if we take their association, we get contaminated, you know? Yes, yes. So, and same thing is there on all levels of association with non-devotees, you know, that we have to give our association. Yeah. And the source of our spiritual strength is our sadhana, our chanting, hearing, you know, that sets a whole different focus to the day, you know. Yeah. So we have to be a little careful, you know. I mean, today is Gaur Kishoredas Babaji's disappearance. He was very, very strict in this, you know, avoiding materialistic association completely, completely. Yes. When he was 29, his wife left her body, and from then on, he took to Babaji life and kept completely away from non-devotee association. So, yeah, we have to be careful, you know. This, and I mean, how do we get the non-devotee association? Through internet, social media, you know? Yes. When we watch all this stuff there, all these YouTube things which are not really Krishna conscious things, what are we doing? We are inviting non-devotees in our house and we watch their activities and we find pleasure in their activities completely. You know, yes, yes. Yeah, so I mean, there's a little bit of good things, of course, on internet, social media, you know, but the main portion is negative. Definitely, definitely. Yeah. So much access to violence and you know, illicit sex life and oh my God, you know, yes, yes. It's a real trap. Yeah, yeah. And even our kids are exposed to this. Yeah. Just the other day, one family in Germany told me, you know, they were completely shocked. It's a nice family. They have two boys, 10 and 14. And they realized their two boys are watching pornography. at that age. They were completely devastated. You know? Yes, yes. That's what the phone brings along, you know. Yeah. Terrible. Like Jayadvaita Swami says, Maya has gone high tech. The best thing for our kids, what we can do for our kids is not to let them have a phone. But then the parents also have to set the example of not being all addicted to the phone, you know. That's one reason why it's really a good idea to send the boys to any Gurukul. Because in Gurukul, no phones allowed. No phones. Doesn't matter which Gurukul, you know. Yeah. Oh, that in itself is such a blessing. Such a blessing. Yeah. All right, what else? Any other question? Okay. Okay.
How we can get ourselves ready to invite that souls in our life, and how we can get our conscious ready.
I didn't
Just like you
understand.
said, we have to be that conscious. We have to have that consciousness to invite that great souls in our lives, or give
Ah,
souls.
Gavadan Samskara. You're asking about that? Well, it's a whole science. On my schedule here, last week in January is the course Our Children Are Our Future. And there in that course, the first session is on Gavadan Samskara. So you come to Mayapur, take the course. But there's also recordings out there somewhere. I mean, it's a whole big topic, you know. I don't think we have the time now to start a whole big topic. But there is also literature, you know, also Mayapur Academy in Mayapur, you know, the deity worship academy. They have also some Samskara course, which is probably more detailed than what I'm giving, you know. Yeah. But the essence is to really prepare the consciousness, prepare the body to make the body a suitable place for an elevated soul to take birth. You know? Yes. It can be a whole preparation of 6 months or something, doing something extra, chanting a few rounds extra, reading extra, choosing some prayers which we feel inspired by, you know, really begging the Lord to send a nice soul to take birth in our family. It's a whole thing. And I've seen devotees, if they're strictly following this, here, Hari Kirtan Prabhu's son-in-law, one of them, I got to know him in Mayapur, he took all my courses. Their little kid, you know, 3, 4 years he is now, something like that. 4. I mean, he's amazing. He's amazing. You can see, oh, he is continuing from previous life, for sure. Yes, but you know, they are a serious family. You know, they want to have their whole life as an ashram. You know, yeah, they really apply things in their life. You know, yes. Yes, so I know a few families like that. But you know, if the wife just gets pregnant, okay, she's pregnant. We weren't really planning like this, but okay, no problem. You know. Oh, well, obviously that attracts a different soul. You know, if a soul is born out of lust. You know? So it's not a coincidence who takes birth in our family. Yes. I know some devotees who told me that their mother told them that they were the only planned, wanted child, or the other children were accidents. Well-received accidents, but still accidents, not planned. But even if you don't know anything about Krishna, even if you don't know anything about Garbhadan Samskar, but just when the parents pray to God, even if they're Christian or whatever, if they pray to God, oh please, my dear Lord, I want to have a nice child. Already that Krishna recognizes and sends a more elevated soul. Yes, yes, I know quite a few devotees in Europe who shared that with me, you know, yes. And they are very different than their brothers and sisters who were not planned children. Yes, so that's how it works, you know. And I mean, Prabhupada says the children born in our families, they do continue from previous life. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of shades and grades of devotees, you know. So if you want to have a more serious and more highly elevated soul in your family, so we have to make some effort, you know. Yes, yes. So that's why being a mother is such important service. All right, what else? Yes.
So I have one question. So as you have said that in that tree example, that tree has also consciousness and you can sense others' consciousness. So suppose the person who has cut its branches comes again near to that tree after 3 years, and in that 3 years he has transformed his consciousness. He has become Krishna conscious person. So in that tree, we still be fearful of that person.
Well, I mean, you know, we can hug the tree and beg for forgiveness. Yeah, tree hugging is a big thing now these days in the Western world. And actually, once I did a Panchakarma treatment, and my Ayurvedic doctor also told me, go and hug trees. They give off, you know, healing energy. Yes. Yes. But actually, one thing I forgot to tell in regards to trees, let me quickly add this. Prabhupada was very strong in not cutting down trees unnecessarily. Yeah, he really emphasized that. So who of you has been to Juhu temple? Anybody's been to Juhu? Have you seen this tree standing outside the Juhu temple, almost in the middle of the road? Yeah, you have seen that tree? It really looks odd, you know? It's in the way, you know, completely. It's, you know, if you have a road and one lane, it's in the middle of that lane is a tree. And there's a whole story behind it, which Giraj Maharaj shares in one of his Vyasapuja homages to Prabhupada, that when Prabhupada got that temple in Juhu, he was really instructing the devotees not to cut down that tree, and that's why it's still standing there. You know? He was really emphasizing, don't you cut down this tree. And then Prabhupada left Juhu, and then later he came back again. And when the devotees picked him up at the airport, his first question was, is that tree still there? Or did you cut it down? Was his first question at the airport, asking about the tree. And Giraj Maharaj makes his point saying, just see how much concern, how much compassion Prabhupada had to a tree. What to speak of his disciples or human beings in general. Even about for a tree, he had so much concern. Yes. So nice story, you know. So Prabhupada really emphasized that we should not unnecessarily cut down the trees, just, oh, because they're in our way, let's get rid of them, and you know, no. Yes, Prabhu. Mike.
So, in my experience, we have to many times deal with different devotees of different levels of consciousness, and so since we have to deal, that can be done in an affectionate manner by praying to Lord for not letting me my consciousness affected by their consciousness. Is that the way, or what best we do then?
Well, if a senior devotee deals with young devotees, you know, he should be strong enough in his consciousness that he gives his consciousness to them rather than accepting their consciousness, you know. So of course, I mean, young devotees, they can also trigger our false egos, you know, like children trigger the parents' false egos. Also, young devotees can trigger the senior devotees' egos too. So, you know, that's why as senior devotees or any devotees, we should always be introspective. We talked a lot about that in our evening classes, being introspective, reflecting. But the main thing as a leader, as a manager, is really to have this well-wishing mood, you know. Prabhupada really emphasized that, you know, that it's actually the same principle in regards to children or bringing up devotees. Same principle, that it has to be done with care and affection. So there has to be discipline and training and correcting, like with children also, but the care and affection and the well-wishing mood, that sets the frame for the correction and the discipline, right? So if a child or a young devotee knows my seniors, they really want me to be happy in Krishna consciousness. They want me to grow and develop myself. So then, if we have that trust, then we can also chastise and correct, you know, because the person understands this is for my own benefit. They have only my devotional development. That's their only interest. That's what they want. But if that's not there, if we bring up devotees or children, just discipline, 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 then it becomes like an army camp, you know? And then, yeah, it will not be a nice mood. So we need that affection, that care, that well-wishing mood combined with training and discipline. You know? Yes. Maybe we should leave it at that. My voice is getting a little tired. But just because there may be some people here who did not attend the other programs, let me just quickly, and it may be the last time and only time I'm meeting you, let me quickly say a few words about these books. Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This is all about the powerful Shakti we women have, how we are meant to serve as the power of inspiration to the man. Because now man-woman equality, Very often the women compete with the men, and the men don't like that very much, right? Yes, maybe our ladies have noticed this, you know. So this is a very important book. When you read this book, you will realize how this man-woman equality puts the whole human society upside down, actually. So any woman who wants to have harmonious relationships with men in her life, not only in family, even at work, in the office, or here in dealings in the community, please read this book. You will find some interesting secrets there. And any man who wants to get the empowerment and support of the women, they should also read this book. Then we have sheltering relationships. This is all about the importance of having a counselor. That just having Diksha Guru not enough. Our Diksha Gurus have hundreds and thousands of disciples. They can't possibly know each and every person's individual situation in life. So when you read this book, you will be clear that without having a counselor and eventually becoming one to others, we actually cannot make advancement. Very easily we stay in our comfort zone, we become stagnant, and we don't go anywhere. And Bharat Maharaj in the Bhagavatam, he is the perfect example. You know, his problem was he didn't have a counselor. He was all alone there in the forest. He didn't have anybody to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, it's enough with the deer now. Let the deer be deer and get back to your sadhana. You know? So even on that level of bhava, we can transform our transcendent emotions back to material attachments if we are not careful. Then we have the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. False ego is so subtle. Here the ass enjoying his sound vibration, you will find that in this book, and so many more things. When we get offended, oh, it's the false ego crying for justice. When we can't forgive, false ego, oh my God. You know. And here you also find a whole chapter on chanting the holy name, how to chant in japa and kirtan, because as we know, Trinada Pisunichina, so we can actually only chant the holy name in a humble state of mind. So how we are meant to chant, we'll find that there. Then we have entering the Grihastha handbook for matchmaking. Last night we had a whole session on that topic. How to see that a boy and a girl are compatible for marriage. We need a bit of help with this. Caste and money is not everything. There's so many devotional levels of compatibility we have to consider. There's a whole list of 200 topics in the book, which the boy and the girl should discuss with a cool head and the presence of a parent to really see, are we matching? And then we have family life as an ashram, secrets of success. How to create this culture of bhakti in our home. As we mentioned, we need a bit of training with this. You know, very often our married devotees, their home life is not an ashram, not a suitable place for bhakti. And that's what gives a bad reputation to the Grihastha ashram. Then people think, oh, this is all Maya, we can't make advancement. But no, if we make it an ashram, it's the perfect place to make advancement. Definitely, yes. So it's like a handbook for successful Krishna conscious married life. And there's a whole chapter on physical intimacy in marriage, how to live this principle of no illicit sex life. Nobody talks about it. People are often a little confused and at a loss how to make things work. So I did some research. I came across interesting stories with Prabhupada where he says things which many of us have not heard. So it adds a different perspective to the whole topic. So I hope this book will make our family life more Krishna conscious and at the same time emotionally balanced and healthy. And last but not least, the Vanaprastha ashram, meeting death with joy. There's a whole chapter on death, what takes place there on all the subtle levels. On Tuesday, actually, we have the evening program on that topic. What takes place there, how to prepare, and how to support others. Very important. Actually, one brahmachari told me, oh, I wish I would have read this book earlier. Then I would have known how to give maximum support to my mother when she left her body, you know. So we have to know how to support somebody. You know, what's the use of all our preaching if at that phase in life, oh, we don't know what to do, you know. And Vanapasta, of course, is that stage in life when the kids are established and then the parents should move on to the next phase. And good to know at young age, you know, what comes after family life. Yes, then you can plan your life properly. You realize family life is not it. It's not the end. There's a whole phase afterwards. Yes. So, and it's a topic which is not established in ISKCON, Vanaprastha ashram. Nobody talks about it, nobody plans for it, nobody has a clear idea how it is meant to be lived, even though Bhagavatam is full of clear statements. You know. So if any of you want some books, these last 4 books are 350 rupees each. The first 2 are 300 each. Many devotees have already taken the whole set. That comes to 2,000 rupees, but you can take any combination of books. So now I have only these samples left. So what we do is I have started a whole list of orders. So if you want to get some books, you immediately after this, you come up to the table. Don't wait, don't go first to Prasadam, because then when you come back, I may not be here anymore. Or it's fasting anyway, half day, right? Yes? Yes? Okay, good. No breakfast. So you come up here and you first come to me here and tell me which books you want. No, here I am. Here you tell me which books you want, and then you go over to the paying station. You can pay with QR code or you can pay cash. Okay? So tonight we changed the topic. We will talk about how to please a husband and how to satisfy the wife. Some little insights into that. Also good to know for preaching and even if you're not married yet, no harm to get some information here about these things. So please come back tonight, 6 o'clock. We start with Kirtan and 6:30 with seminar. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktavrinda ki, Gaura Prema.